Hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m. bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League. Plenty to go through this week as some of the run-ins are really hotting up. We've had a couple more relegations as well and a couple of promotions, but we're going to start not as we normally do with the Northern Premier Division results. What we're going to do this time around is look at the first piece of silverware that was awarded this season. It was the League Plate final on Sunday over at Solihull Moors between Leeds United and Stourbridge. Leeds United coming away 3-1 winners in this one and lifting the FAWNL Plate. Macy Ellis opening the scoring in the 30th minute. Then just 4 minutes later, Stourbridge equalised. Hannah Fishwick in the 34th minute. 1-1 it was at half-time. Leeds then went back in front just after the hour mark. Abby Brown in the 63rd minute. And they doubled their advantage with 15 minutes to go. Amy Woodruff getting Leeds' third goal. And they came away 3-1 winners with the plate in hand. So congratulations to Leeds for winning the plate. Of course, Stourbridge focusing now entirely on the league and getting themselves up into Tier 3 of women's football here in England. Talking about moving tiers, let's speak about two of the teams that we're going to be covering quite a bit on next year's show. We've had two more promotions from Tier 5 up to Tier 4. So into Division 1 North next season go Chester Street Town, who of course only got relegated last year. They've bounced back at the first time of asking, so they have won the Northeastern Women's Regional League, so they're back into Division 1 North. And then from the East Midlands Regional Women's Football League, Notts County, who beat Mansfield Town on Monday night at Meadow Lane, and they are now going to be into Division 1 Midlands next season. So we'll have maybe two Nottingham sides to talk about on next year's show, but it may, of course, only be one, depending on what Forest do. Let's now then, as we normally do, start with the Northern Premier Division as we go and look at some of the league results from the past 7 days. East Midlands Derby at Pride Park, watched by 5,000 people as Nottingham Forest come away 2-0 winners against Derby County. Charlotte Steggles just before the half-hour mark put Forest in front. Charlotte Greengrass then on the hour mark in the second half made it 2-0 to Forest. That's how it remained. Very low-scoring weekend in the Northern Premier Division. Liverpool Feds losing by 1-0 to Huddersfield Town. Brittany Sanderson with the only goal there, 20 minutes from time. And Fylde beating Loughborough by just a single goal to nil as well. Emma Jane Siddle in the 18th minute, the only goal of the game in that one. One game that happened last night, Liverpool Feds 4-1 winners over Fylde, who haven't put their goal scorer up on full time yet. But Feds goal scorers Katie Thomas in the 26th minute, Emma Johnson in the 51st minute, Amy Seagraves in the 69th, and Paige Cole in the 75th. Didn't end in the greatest of fashion between these two sides. Molly Farley in the 92nd minute getting a red card, and there's reports of a bit of a punch-up as well between a few players from each side. But a 4-1 victory for Liverpool Feds. What it means for the table, they're the only movers this week. Everything else stays pretty much the same. So Forest they stayed top. They're now 4 points clear, but with Burnley and Wolves not playing because their game that was meant to be this weekend got moved because of Wolves against West Brom in the County Cup. That means that Forest are 4 points clear, but they've played two more now than Burnley and Wolves. Derby remain kind of a bit in no man's land in fourth, despite losing to Forest. Brighouse didn't play either, neither did Stoke. Huddersfield with their victory would have climbed a place over far, but Fylde won as well, so that all stays the same. Liverpool Feds, despite losing to Huddersfield, then of course won last night. So they jump over West Bromwich Albion, who go into the danger zone above that relegation spot. They do have 3 in hand over Boldmere St Michael's, who are on 13. Loughborough Lightning are Loughborough Lightning are relegated out of the Northern Premier Division. This is what happens when it comes to doing the graphics very early on this morning. So Loughborough Lightning, a 13-point gap, only 12 left available. Loughborough relegated out of the Northern Premier Division. They'll go into Division 1 Midlands next season as well. Don't be surprised if we see some lateral movement in Tier 4 next season, because with both teams coming down, what seems likely anyway, both teams coming down out of the Northern Premier Division to go into the Midlands, because Boldmere, of course, are around Birmingham, as are West Brom. It's only if Liverpool Feds go down, but they're now 5 points clear of Boldmere with 4 games to play. It's only if they come down that it will be split 1-1. So don't be surprised if we see the most northern Division 1 Midlands side, which off the top of my head I believe is Doncaster, go into the Northern Division next season. But we'll see what happens with that once all the relegations have been decided. But yes, Loughborough Lightning relegated out of out of the Northern Premier Division after defeat. After Liverpool Feds' victory means that the gap is now too insurmountable for Loughborough Lightning. Let's have a look at the run-ins then. We'll start at the top. As I said, Forest 4 points clear of Burnley, 6 points clear of Wolves. Now, what this graphic doesn't show is the superior goal difference advantage that Forest have. 52 their goal difference at the moment. Burnley on 34, Wolves on 32. So, although Wolves have 2 games in hand over Forest that could get them level on points, they would still be, based on normal kind of results patterns, a good 12, 14 goals behind Forest on the goal difference. It's Burnley that Forest have got to watch, because they're only 4 points back with 2 in hand. However, as you can see from the top of that graphic there, this weekend Forest host Burnley. Now, it was a draw at Burnley's place. Forest then beat Burnley in the Cup quarter-final at Forest. And now this one is at Eastwood this weekend. If Forest can win that game, then that eliminates Burnley's games in hand advantage, because Forest would go 7 clear of Burnley, and even with 2 wins, Burnley would still end up a point behind the Reds. So that's going to be a very interesting one to keep an eye on. Then in midweek, Forest have got West Brom, who of course are fighting with the relegation. That's at home as well. Forest now 3 of their final 4 games at home. Burnley so have Forest away, Huddersfield away, Stoke away, and Burnley have got to play Wolves on the 23rd. That's the penultimate game of the season. Now, of course, and I mentioned it a few weeks ago, if results go the way of Forest, particularly this weekend, then it could be the situation that Forest win the league on the 23rd while they're playing in the cup final, because Wolves have got Burnley. If results go the way and that game, for example, I don't know, ends in a draw, then it could be a double celebration for Forest. Of course, it could all go completely wrong for Forest between now and then. Wolves, you feel, need to probably go pretty much perfect for the rest of the season, but we wouldn't have expected a couple of weeks ago Forest to only draw with Loughborough, which of course is putting so much pressure on this game against Burnley. So just because West Brom are down in 10th doesn't mean that's necessarily going to be an easy win for Forest. So over the next few weeks, you'll see that Forest then have no game on the 9th. Then Wolves' game against Boldmere has been scheduled for the 11th, which is a midweek game, hence that extra column in there. So then it'll be pulled back to 1 game in hand, which is then on the 23rd. We'll know much more then in a couple of weeks' time. Once that Burnley game against Stoke and Feds, Wolves there will have gained 3 games in hand after that midweek. It will then come back down to 1. So it will be very interesting to look at in a couple of weeks' time. Let's quickly have a look at the bottom. where instead Loughborough Lightning are relegated. Bolton St Michael's have 4 games to go. They've got no game this weekend. Then they've got 2 games at home, 2 away. They need to make up a decent number of points because West Brom, who still have a game against Loughborough to fit in, point that out. So that's got to get put in somewhere. But West Brom, a lot of away games in that, only 1 at home, and that's against Burnley. But they do have 3 games in hand on Feds and on Boldmere. So don't necessarily think that West Brom might get dragged fully into this, although they have got to go to Forest, they have got to go to Brighouse, they have got to face Burnley, they have got to face Derby, so they've got to face 4 of the top 5 West Brom in their running. Boldmere are running out of games. They've got to get some wins relatively quickly. Loughborough, you'd think they would probably win that game, at least get a point. Wolves at home is going to be difficult. Feds, they're going to be fighting. And FAWNL, I think, have probably done enough. They're 7 points clear. Boldmere only got 12 on the table, so probably FAWNL have done enough. But it could be very interesting on the final day of the season. Right, let's have a look at the Southern Premier Division results then. So Oxford United 2, not many results this week in the South. Oxford United 2, Plymouth Argyle 0. This is all on Sunday, these. Natasha Stevens in the 35th minute put Oxford in front, 1-0 at half-time. And then right after the second half got underway, Amy Goddard with a goal for Oxford made it 2-0. So they keep up their momentum at the top. But Watford, hot on their heels, a 5-0 victory over Milton Keynes Dons, including 2 in the first 2 minutes. Andrea Gorgiou in the first, Gemma Davison in the second. There is another one in there as well somewhere that's not been put on the system. It has. Poppy Wilson in the 7th minute. So Watford 3-0 up after just 7 minutes of play. Poppy Wilson with her second in the 19th and Sophie McLean with one in the 37th. So Watford 5-0 up by half-time in that game. And they'd done all the scoring they needed to do there and finished out 5-0 winners. Ipswich with a narrow victory over Gillingham by 1-0. Anna Gray with the only goal of the game in that one. So what it means for the table is that, well, the top 3 who are vying for the title all won their games this weekend. As you can see there on that graphic, not much movement in the Southern Premier Division this week. Watford go above Portsmouth. That was Watford's game in hand. So Ipswich remain top. They're 2 points clear of Oxford United, but Oxford have got 2 games in hand. Watford third, now 6 points back from Ipswich, but also with 2 in hand and a better goal difference. Portsmouth dropped down to 4th. They are 7 back from Ipswich, but they also have 2 in hand. Down towards the bottom, then everything remains the same because Gillingham, MK Dons and Plymouth all lost. That's kind of all the mid-table teams. Crawley now with 3 games to play have to win them all to have a chance of staying up. Bridgewater in 14th, Bridgewater in 11th on 14 points, Plymouth in 10th on 15 points. We'll go a bit more into the run-ins now. We'll start though at the top where, as I said there, Ipswich at the top, 2 points clear of Oxford, but it's Ipswich against Oxford this weekend. Huge game at the top of the Southern Premier Division. Where Oxford, if Oxford were to win that game against Ipswich, they'd go above them and have 2 games in hand. If Ipswich win that game, it's a 5-point gap. Yes, Oxford still have 2 in hand, but it just puts a bit more pressure on Oxford, particularly because one of those games in hand is against Watford, who are in 3rd, really chasing that down as well. You sense that because Oxford face Ipswich and Oxford face Watford in the next couple of weeks. By the time you get to those games on the 16th, one of those sides are probably going to be out of the title race, you would imagine. Watford, in my view, I think Oxford have the hardest running of all 3 teams because they've got 4 away games on the bounce, including Ipswich, Watford and Portsmouth. And then Gillingham at home are in 6th, so they're only kind of and I'm putting this in inverted commas, although I know the camera is off on this screen, easier game is the Crawley game in next week, when Crawley are already so far down and probably going down into tier 4 next season. If you look at Watford, they've got Plymouth, who are in 10th, Bridgewater, who are in 11th. Then they've got that difficult game against Oxford, granted. But then they've got London, who are in 9th, and Billericay, who, yes, are in 5th, but don't have anything to play for now this season. Ipswich have got this difficult game this weekend. They've got Milton Keynes, who are in 7th and have got nothing to play for this season, and Cheltenham, who are in 8th with nothing to play for this season. So, for Ipswich, I think it all hinges on this game against Oxford. If Ipswich are to lose this game against Oxford, then I think it's going to be difficult for them, because Watford are going to have that two games in hand, and that gap, I would think, with a Plymouth game for Watford is probably going to be reduced to 3 points. So then it's going to be difficult for Ipswich to come back. Oxford have got the most difficult run in for me, because they've got Ipswich, Watford and Portsmouth away. So I think they've got the most difficult one, but they are in pole position at the moment. Watford, I think, need to go perfect. They certainly need to beat Oxford in that game, midweek game on April the 12th. That's the must for Watford. But if they do go perfect, then they may well be in the driving seat to top the division and get into that playoff game. But that's going to be very interesting to look at over the coming weeks. It's great that so many of these leagues have a title race, and there isn't one team running away with it at the top, because it does make for, particularly because all these teams seem to be coming up against one another as well, does make for a fascinating conclusion to the season. Right, moving on then, Division 1 North results. Barnsley 1, Hull City 5. Big win for Hull City in this one. A brace for Hope Knight, one for Rachel Ackroyd, one for Amy Pollock, and one for Katie Thompson as well. They did have Liberty Bott sent off in that one, but didn't deter them. They win by 5-1. Emily Pierpont with the goal for Barnsley. Durham Sestra 2, Stockport County 1. Stockport County had gone behind early on in this one. Leanna Giles in the 3rd minute put Durham ahead. Chloe Howard, though, right before half-time, 44th minute, equalised for Stockport. They went in level. Poppy Pritchard, though, first minute back after the half-time break, put Durham back in front. 2-1 they win. And that is another 3 points for them against a game that looked on paper to be one of their more difficult in the running, and they have come through it. Huge result for Bradford City. 5-0 winners over Merseyrail. That was that big game down at the bottom. Ariana Parnham with a hat-trick in that game. Sandra Martins and Charlotte Stewart also with one. Does wonders for Bradford City, as we'll see from the table in a moment. And York City 1, Chorley 4. Jessica Gillen with a hat-trick for Chorley. Sophie Rotherham with the other goal there as well. Jessica Heald, with the one goal for York in the 39th minute. What it means for the table then, Durham Sestra remain 4 points clear of Newcastle, and Newcastle have 2 games in hand. Barnsley remain in 3rd. They are now completely out of it. Well, unless they win every single game and Durham and Newcastle lose every single game, then Barnsley could still do it, but realistically they're now out of it. Stockport's in 4th. Hull, after that win, go above Leeds United, so Hull in 5th, Leeds in 6th. Leeds still with an awful lot of games to play though this season. Expect them to start climbing up the table towards that top 4. Norton, Stockton Ancients and Middlesbrough chorley remain where they are. Chorley go above York after that victory and put themselves 3 points clear of the relegation zone. But Bradford City, with that 5-0 victory, has done, for starters, wonders for their goal difference. That's brought them back to pretty much level with, well, they are level with Chorley, only 2 goals behind York, and 2 points away from safety. And for Bradford, a game in hand. Merseyrail not down yet, but are all but down. They need to win all 3 of their remaining games, and they have to overturn a goal difference of 30 to stay up. So they need to be scoring, 10 goals a game or more. They've got Norton, Stockton, Stockport and Leeds. So Merseyrail all but relegated back into Tier 5. because I can't see them winning all 3 of those games. If they do win all 3 of those games, the chances of scoring 30 goals in those 3 games is entirely, it's very, very slim. Let's have a look at the run-ins then. We're going to look at this bottom run-in now then, with Bradford getting those 3 points. So, Chorley on 18, York on 17, Bradford on 15. Bradford with that game in hand. The downside for Bradford is that they have 2 against Newcastle to finish the season. So if they're going to do it, you feel they need to do it quickly. The advantage that Bradford have got, that 1 game against York next weekend, York at home, because York's 3 games, they've got Durham, who are first, Barnsley, who are third. They really need to target that Bradford game. But if Bradford can beat them, they would leapfrog them, unless, of course, York gets something and Bradford don't in that game this weekend against Durham. But then you're looking at Bradford would leapfrog York into the safety zone. They've then got those 2 games against Newcastle. But for the final day of the season, what's interesting at the bottom of Division 1 North is that Chorley have Durham, who are currently top, York have Barnsley, who are currently third, and Bradford have Newcastle, who are currently second. So the 9th, 10th and 11th, who are fighting to avoid that second relegation spot, have all got the top 3 on the final day of the season. So you feel as though all of the points that these teams towards the bottom are going to gain need to come before that final day of the season, i.e. in the next 3 games or 2 games in Chorley and York's case. Now, Chorley have got Leeds at home and Hull. They're 2 mid-table teams that don't have anything to play for. Chorley have the advantage of being 3 points clear, but they are level on goal difference with Bradford, and Bradford have that game in hand. So it's interesting to see where that comes. And Bradford's game in hand over Chorley is against York. If Bradford get the victory over York, they would move on to 18. They'd jump up, let's, for argument's sake, say everybody loses this weekend. They would jump up 2 places. York would be in the relegation zone. Chorley would be the one just 2 points clear. Just 1 point clear. And Bradford would be in 9th. And they would also be a point clear. And then Bradford have got 2 against Newcastle. You'd think that's probably unlikely. Chorley have got Hull away. Well, Hull just won by 5-1, but that's something that they may feel they need to get something from, but even a point wouldn't necessarily be enough if York were then to go and get the win on final day, because you'd think Barnsley by that point have got nothing to play for either. So it does seem as though it's the next couple of weeks, and specifically that York and Bradford game on the 9th, which we'll of course cover in detail on next week's show, that's going to be the crucial thing in Division 1 North in determining who goes down into Tier 5, because it is so tight there. Middlesbrough are in 8th. They're 5 points clear at the moment. They have a game in hand as well. You feel that they've probably done enough to avoid being dragged into it. And they have 4 home games to finish off the season, although Stockport, Leeds, Barnsley and Hull, that's 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. So maybe Middlesbrough, if Chorley could potentially get a victory over a Leeds or over a Hull, then maybe Middlesbrough might look over their shoulders a little bit. But it's one to keep a small eye on. Running north at the top, Durham Sestra against Newcastle. Now, Newcastle 4 points back, but they've got 2 games in hand. They've got Barnsley, who are in 3rd this weekend, which is going to be the crucial game for them. Durham Sestra, as we've alluded to, have York. They've then got Leeds and Chorley. So Durham have got 2 of the teams down towards the bottom. Newcastle have 1 team down towards the bottom, but they're playing them twice. The goal difference is equal between these 2 teams. Obviously, if Newcastle win their remaining 5 games and they do go up, they could afford to draw one, and then it would possibly go down to goal difference as well. So, get as many goals as you can. But you feel that Stockport game that Durham got past, that was their difficult game in this run. In York and Chorley both away from home, but you'd think Durham will get past them there. It's that Leeds game, I suppose, that could maybe slip Durham up. But Newcastle need to get through this game against Barnsley. I really don't know which way this one's going to go. I'm really unsure. Again, it'll be a really interesting one to look at. So that's 3 leagues we've looked at so far on this week's show, and each league has got interest at the top and the bottom, which really does keep things interesting. Division 1 Midlands then. We will have a look at that. So there was one game last Thursday that was after the show last week. That was Sheffield 2, Lincoln City 2. Leah Hardy and Tony McHamilton with the goals for Lincoln. No information's been put on about Sheffield. Were they both own goals? Were they both penalties? No, there was just no information. But a 2-2 draw between Sheffield and Lincoln. Leaford Athletic, 5-0 winners over Long Eaton United. A brace for Daisy May Clements, 15th and 68th minute. A brace for Jessica Lowe, 31st and 75th minute. And one for Catherine Pagan, also in the 75th minute. So 3 goals in 7 minutes really killed Long Eaton off. In the second half there, Leaford Athletic with a 5-0 victory. 2 goals in the first half meant that Sheffield and Peterborough United shared the points. Tara Kirk in the second minute put Peterborough ahead early, but Matilda Hallas Potts just after the half-hour mark tied it up for Sheffield and they shared the points. Sporting Council 1, Northampton Town 2. A goal in the final 10 minutes for Beth Artemu put Northampton in front here after Megan Cann had put Sporting Cows in front in the first half and Jade Bell had equalised on the stroke of half-time. And then 9 minutes from time, Beth Artemu put Northampton 2-1 in front, and that was how it finished. And Leek Town, a 2-1 victory over Doncaster Rovers Bells. Sophie Scargill, the only goal for Doncaster, that came in the first half. Katie Mayo with the goal for Leek Town in the first half, 28th minute. Chantel Gallagher, 53rd minute, gave Leek what would prove to be the game-winning goal. And that has done a lot for the table. It means that Stourbridge are now 7 points clear of Doncaster Rovers Bells with 6 games to go. Big advantage now for Stourbridge, who not only have a 7-point advantage, but have a 42-goal advantage as well. The Stourbridge very much in the driving seat here. Northampton Town up a couple of places. They're on 32 points now. They've got 5 to play. Sporting Cowser and Peterborough United drop a place each. Leafield Athletic up a place over Solihull Moors as well. Down towards the bottom, it still remains very close. Lincoln City, 21 points. Sheffield, 21. Leek Town 20 and Wem Town 17. Let's have a look at the run-ins. We'll start at the bottom because it's slightly less of a foregone conclusion, although of course it's football, so there is no such thing as a foregone conclusion. Sheffield with 5 games to go are on 21 points, 4 points clear of the relegation zone, which Wem Town currently occupy. They've only got 3 games to go as well. So Sheffield, they've got Long Eaton this weekend. You would think that's probably going to be a victory, but then they've got Leek and Wem towards the back end of the season there. Leek Town have got Stourbridge this weekend, and then they've got that game against Wem Town. That's going to be huge. Then they've got Sheffield and then Peterborough on the final day of the season. Wem have got Leek, then Doncaster at home, and then Sheffield. But of course, bearing in mind, of course, that Leek just beat Doncaster, Wem will go into confidence with those. Wem are in the worst position at the moment. Yes, they've got to play Leek, but even if they win that game, they're going to still be behind on goal difference because they're 13 worse at the moment. So unless it's like a 7-goal win, and then Wem Town are still going to be in the relegation zone, but they might be able, of course, to bring that down to just a goal difference gap and a 1-point gap, even up to Lincoln City in 8th. Then they've got Doncaster and then they've got Sheffield on final day. Maybe it comes down to Sheffield and Wem on the final day. You look at Leek's games, they've got Stourbridge, they've got Peterborough, so you feel that Leek needs to target those Wem and Sheffield games. Sheffield, they've got Long Eaton this weekend. They've then got Stourbridge and Peterborough as well. Then they've got Leek and then they've got Wem. So if you look at the difference between Sheffield and Leek, they've both got Stourbridge, they've both got Peterborough, they've both got Wem, and they've got each other. The only difference between those two teams is that Sheffield have got Long Eaton this weekend. So Sheffield, you would imagine, would go on to 24, and it would give them, with Wem not playing this weekend, a 7-point gap, and that would mean that to be dragged into the relegation zone, Wem would need to win every single one of their games. They have Leek, which they could beat. They have Doncaster. Well, Leek have just beaten Doncaster. So it still could come down to final day, but then you're relying on Sheffield when you would think they would win this weekend and then not winning or picking up anything against Stourbridge and Peterborough, which is probably likely, that then Leek. Like Sheffield could make themselves safe if they beat Leek on the 23rd. But that could well come down to the final day of the season. Running at the top is far more kind of advantageous to Stourbridge, really. I mean, Doncaster Rovers Bell's maximum is to get to 52. That would mean Stourbridge need 11 from their final 6 games. So 4 wins from their final 6. They have Leek Town, who are in 10th. Solihull don't have anything to play for. Sheffield, who are in 9th. So you would think that's probably 6 out of the 11 that they need. Northampton are 3rd. That could be a challenging game. Peterborough 5th. Leafield in 6th. Doncaster have got Northampton twice. They've also got Peterborough. So again, you look at who's got the easier running. They both have Peterborough. They both have Northampton. They both have Leafield. So the advantage to me is to Stourbridge. They've got a huge points advantage. They've got to play the same teams as Doncaster, and the teams they haven't got to play the same as Doncaster are teams towards the bottom of the table. So for me, it's Stourbridge with the big advantage, and I think that they will get themselves over the line. Division 1 South East results then. One game again to talk about from last week. London Seaward 1, AFC Wimbledon 1. That was a result from last Thursday after the show went out. Goals in this one, Frank Zimmerer off the substitutes bench with the goal for London Seaward. And it was an own goal that was Wimbledon's goal in the 33rd minute. So that's their goal on there. Actonians 4, Norwich City 1. We're back into Sunday here. Natasha Snelling with the goal for Norwich, but goals for Actonians, Sophie Bajanen, Dominik Skanechkova, Sophia Sharos and Jasmine Williamson. A convincing victory for Actonians. Ashford hashtag postponed, Chesham Cambridge postponed. Those games have both already been rescheduled. The only game in the entire 6 divisions that still hasn't been scheduled is West Brom against Loughborough in the Northern Premier Division, and still Doncaster against Peterborough, the only game that's taking place in May. Everybody else finishes on the 30th of April, apart from 2 teams in Division 1 South East, but they escape me as to who they are right at this moment. They are London Seaward and Ashford Town, who finish on the 23rd, not the 30th. And Queen's Park Rangers 2, AFC Wimbledon 4. So goals in this one. No, because Full Time's decided it wants to be very, very awkward to me. Thank you very much, Full Time. There we go. No information yet about Queen's Park Rangers. 2 goals to Eleanor Dorey for Wimbledon. She got a brace in the 11th and the 15th minute. There was also an own goal in the 10th minute, so 3 and 5 for Wimbledon. And then Emma Jane Plewer from the penalty spot in the 24th minute. So all 4 of Wimbledon's goals coming before the 25-minute mark in that one. And a 4-2 victory for them. What it means for the table, I mean, there's not a huge amount of movement, but Wimbledon left to potentially rue that draw with London Seaward, because it means they don't go top. And Hashtag United are now a point clear and with a game in hand. Elsewhere, Actonians jump above Norwich City. Of course, there's no threat down towards the bottom to any of those sides because Division 1 South East lost both Wyndham and Hounslow this season. So there's no relegation out of Division 1 South East. So Wimbledon with 3 to go, Hashtag with 4 to go. Let's have a look at that running. So, as I said there, Hashtag against Ashford that was postponed this weekend has been put in on April the 9th. It's where I thought it would be. They both have had a free weekend that weekend. Of course, Division 1 South East is suddenly very free because of two teams going. So this weekend, Actonians away for hashtag, while Wimbledon have Cambridge City at home. That's the bottom of the table, Cambridge City. And then next week, it's hashtag's game in hand against Ashford as it's been moved. So then they'll be level on 16 games played each. But then on the 16th, Cambridge United go to Wimbledon and they will have played a game more again. So, I mean, it is entirely in hashtag's hands. If they win all 4 of their games, they've got QPR back-to-back to finish the season. Then, of course, they will be champions and go into Tier 3 after just missing out last season. Wimbledon do need hashtag to slip up. And they need them to slip up twice, to be honest, because if they lose their game in hand, they're still going to be a point clear. So you look at that and you think, where are hashtag going to drop 4 points in the final 4 games of the season when they've only dropped 5 points in the entire season so far? So it's going to be difficult for Wimbledon. The advantage they've got is that hashtag have got to go away for 3 of their 4 games. Wimbledon are at home for all of their games. They've got a fortnight break between each one as well. So rest and recuperation is also to Wimbledon's advantage to an extent. But I think hashtag will probably have enough to get over the line here. I mean, highly expect that Wimbledon will win this weekend. Actonians are in 5th. You would suspect it might be a bit closer for hashtag, but you suspect that hashtag are going to do that as well. Keep it at a 1-point gap. It may then go to 4 when they play Ashford. And then a back-to-back against QPR for hashtag to finish the season, whilst Wimbledon play Norwich on the final day. I don't think it's going to go down to the final day. That's my gut instinct. I think when hashtag win away at QPR, the gap will probably be... Well, it'll either be 4 points and they'll have done it, or 3 points with a goal difference advantage that currently stands at 25 and will probably be there or thereabouts the same. And it's just going to be too much for Wimbledon to overcome. Right, Division 1 South West then. Let's have a look at these results. Final league to look at. Keynsham with an 11-1 victory over AFC St Austell. 5 goals for Naomi Clipston. A hat-trick for Vicky Vipond as well. That's 8 of them. Mackenzie Rastata, Justine Lawton and Lily Reid with the other goals for Keynsham. Eve Charlotte Moore with the only goal for Austell. Maidenhead 2, Southampton Women's 2. All the goals coming kind of in pairs here. Gabriella Tuchman put Southampton in front on the 32nd minute. Megan Halfricke 4 minutes later made it 1-1. And then Natalie Cowell in the 52nd minute put Maidenhead in front 4 minutes later. Tuchman gets her second of the game and makes it 2-2. Portishead against Cardiff postponed. Swindon 2, Moneyfields 3. A brace for Annabelle Colston for Swindon, who were 2-1 up at half-time. 10th and the 23rd minute there. Gemma Simmons in the 31st minute had got one back for Moneyfields. Kimberly Whitcomb in the 57th minute equalised for Moneyfields, and then with 15 minutes to go, Whitcomb again from the penalty spot this time put them 3-2 in front, and they held on to that victory to give them 3 points. What that means for the table, Exeter City and Cardiff City neither played this weekend, so they remain as they were. Moneyfields are up to 3rd. They are 9 points behind Exeter now, so they're 3 games back. There's 5 to go. Bournemouth drop a place. Southampton Women's and Swindon stay where they are. Keynsham Town go above Chelsea. Portishead and Maidenhead remain as they are. Larkhall are 8 points away from safety, and Austell now confirmed as relegated out of Division 1 South West. Larkhall, of course, 8 points needed from their 4 games, and they've got Bournemouth and Cardiff to play, so it looks a bit unlikely for Larkhall. The reason, because of that, there is no Division 1 South West bottom running graphic, because in my mind it's kind of a done deal. We'll just have a look at the top, because Cardiff's game against Portishead has been slotted in on April the 13th. So as you can see there, Cardiff play on the 13th, the 16th, and the 19th, and the 23rd, all away from home. So a lot of travelling for Cardiff to do to finish their season off. Exeter 2 games clear of Cardiff. They're 6 points ahead. As I said, Cardiff got 2 games in hand. If Cardiff win both those games in hand, they'll go ahead on goal difference. But Exeter with Maidenhead, Swindon, Chelsea and Swindon, that's 10th, 6th, 8th and 6th. Cardiff also have Chelsea, they also have Swindon. So the difference there, Maidenhead and Swindon for Exeter, Southampton, Larkhall, Moneyfields and Portishead for Cardiff. But as I said, Cardiff have got a lot away from home, Exeter have got a lot at home, and it actually only takes one slip up from Cardiff, where Moneyfields away is probably the one that's most likely to happen. Really puts Exeter in the driving seat there. But again, a lot to look at the top of Division 1 South West. They're only a month away from the season, 4 or 5 games away from the end of the season, and every single division has still got more than one team really actually in the mix and with a good chance of winning the division, which is great for the FA Women's National League. Right, we'll finish off this week's show then by looking at the fixtures coming up. We'll start in the Northern Premier Division, where Derby County take on Brighouse Town. That is 4th against 5th, neither side in the title race anymore. There is the big one in the Northern Premier Division, which could well make or break each of these sides' seasons. Nottingham Forest hosting Burnley at Forest. If Forest win that game, then Burnley's games in hand are nullified. If Burnley win that game, they've got 2 games in the hand and they're only 1 point behind Forest. Burnley, of course, still unbeaten in the league this season. And the thought of going unbeaten in the league, like even a draw would be okay for Forest, with Burnley and Wolves still to play. But imagine if Burnley go unbeaten in the league and don't win the division. Stoke City against West Brom, 6th against 10th. Wolves take on Huddersfield, 3rd against 7th. Potential banana skin there for Wolves, I suppose. Because if Huddersfield were to win both of their games in hand, they've got over the teams above them, then they could go into 5th. So potential banana skin, but at Wolves, you'd think they probably got enough to get past Huddersfield. Loughborough Lightning against Liverpool Feds. Opportunity for Feds there with Boldmere not playing to put themselves 8 points clear of the relegation zone, with Boldmere having 4 to play, and that would do wonders for Liverpool Feds. Then on Wednesday, it's Huddersfield against Burnley. So Burnley with 2 this weekend. 1 will be one of their games in hand over Forest. So by the time we get to next week's show, if results have gone Burnley's way, they'll be top of the table. And if things don't go their way, of course, then it could look very, very different. But really important fixtures in the Northern Premier Division this weekend. Southern Premier Division, Plymouth Argyle take on Watford, which is an important game for Watford to win. Plymouth Argyle down towards the bottom. Billericay Town against Portsmouth is 4th versus 5th. Portsmouth must win that game to keep alive any chance of going for the title, in my opinion. Cheltenham against Gillingham is 8th against 6th, kind of just a mid-table game. Cheltenham are too far away. They're 7 points clear as it is, with Bridgewater only having 12 on the table. Cheltenham too far away to get dragged into that, in my view. Ipswich against Oxford, we mentioned it earlier, that's the big one. Ipswich need to win this game. If Oxford go top of the table with 2 games in hand, it's going to be very difficult for Ipswich. So Ipswich really could do with all 3 points from that game. Milton Keynes Dons against Bridgewater, 7th against 11th. Again, Milton Keynes Dons not really in any danger. They are 9 clear of Bridgewater, with Bridgewater having 4 games to go. So, any result for MK Dons against Bridgewater would definitely see them safe. Bridgewater could really do with at least a point. A point could be enough to get themselves into 10th, because the goal difference is to their advantage over Plymouth. But against MK Dons, they've probably got more of a chance against MK Dons than Plymouth have got over Watford. But all eyes will be on that Ipswich and Oxford game. Division 1 North, lots of fixtures here because, of course, Leeds and teams such as that have got, Hull have still got 6 to play. Leeds have got 8 to play. Tonight, Hull City against Barnsley. Then at the weekend, Barnsley Newcastle, big game there, 3rd against 2nd. Bradford against Hull, 11th against 5th. Chorley in 9th take on Leeds United, who are in 6th. Middlesbrough and Stockport, that's 8th against 4th, kind of a mid-table game there. Norton Stockton Ancients and Merseyrail, that's 7th and 12th. Merseyrail, of course, all but down because of that huge goal difference. You suspect that at the weekend that will be confirmed. York City take on Durham. We've been through the run-ins there about how important that game is for Durham to win. York City, if they can get anything from that game, that'll be a huge bonus for them. Then in midweek on Wednesday, Leeds United take on Norton Stockton Ancients. Again, another mid-table battle there. Division 1 Midlands, just 3 games taking place this weekend. Northampton Town against Doncaster Rovers Bells is 3rd against 2nd. You feel if Doncaster don't win that one, then that really could be curtains for the title race. Sheffield against Long Eaton United, 9th against 12th. Long Eaton, of course, already down. Sheffield with a win would really help themselves out because this is one of their games in hand over Wem. If they can get themselves 7 points clear of Wem Town, particularly with Wem only with 9 points left on the table. Again, we've discussed all that in the run-in. That'd be huge for Sheffield, and it's a game they would go into that with confidence of winning. Leek Town take on Stourbridge. Now, Leek Town beat Doncaster last weekend. They'll be looking for another upset. Stourbridge will really be looking to hammer home this advantage now. With Doncaster facing a difficult game against Northampton. If Stourbridge can get the win, get themselves onto 44. That would then be a 9-point gap if Northampton were to win because they would go second. It would be a 9-point gap to second with Northampton only having 4 games left to go. Doncaster would be 10 behind with 5 games to go, and then Stourbridge have just got to get a couple of wins to get themselves over the line. Division 1 South East, 5 games, 1 next week. So AFC Wimbledon against Cambridge City. Again, another one that we've discussed. 2nd against 10th there. Actonians take on Hashtag, 5th against 1st. Cambridge United against London Seaward. That's 8th against 3rd. Norwich City against Chesham is 6th against 9th. Then on Wednesday, Cambridge City take on Norwich City, 10th against 6th. Cambridge City, 3 games to go, of course, and 2 this week. Not in any danger of going down because there is no relegation out of South East, but they will want some good results to finish the season. Take a little bit of confidence into summer. Division 1 South West then at the weekend. Cardiff City against Chelsea. That is 2nd against 8th. Exeter take on Maidenhead, which is 1st against 10th. Larkhall Athletic, they desperately need a win. They are at home to AFC Bournemouth, who are in 4th. Moneyfields in 3rd, take on Keynsham, who are in 7th. Portishead against AFC St Austell, that's 9th against 12th. Portishead could make themselves safe with a result against AFC St Austell. Swindon take on Southampton Women's, that's 6th against 5th. Again, mid-table game, nothing to play for either of those. Then on Wednesday, Moneyfields take on Chelsea. That's the game that was postponed from last week. And it has been moved forward. So Larkhall with 4 games to play. They are 8 points away from safety. If results go against them this weekend, although you would suspect they're not going to because Exeter City you would think are going to beat Maidenhead. So they should survive for another week should Larkhall. But if Maidenhead do get something from that Exeter game, even if it's just a point, and Larkhall lose to Bournemouth, then it is all but relegation for Larkhall, who would be 9 points away from safety with 9 to play, but with a 16 goal difference advantage to make up from their final 3 games as well. So you feel that Larkhall, if they don't get a victory against Bournemouth this weekend, that is it for their time in Division 1 Southwest as well. That will do it for this week's women's football chat. Thank you very much for joining me. Look forward to seeing Chester Street Town and Notts County in the FAWNL next season. That's now 3 sides from Tier 5 who have secured their promotion. The rest of the leagues are a bit tight with 4 or 5 games to go, very similar to the FAWNL. So it may be a couple of weeks, 3 weeks until we get the next new team into the division. As I said, I suspect we may have some lateral movement as well in Tier 4. But as always, thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's women's football chat. Keep supporting your local women's football team. The weather, I think, should be okay coming up to this week, particularly in the East Midlands. But as always, check before you travel, just in case there's venue changes and the likes. I know Plymouth have already changed their venue because of weather concerns, because, of course, teams now it's very clear from the league, April the 30th is the cut-off date, unless you're Doncaster against Peterborough. So teams do not want these midweek fixtures. They're doing everything they can to get the fixtures off when they are scheduled. So do check before you travel for postponements and or venue changes. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.